Good morning, everybody. It's me, John Caspian.
It's also us.
Yeah, it's Mark and John.
Yeah. So, we have a lot to talk about today, as always, in a Giga Rambles. So much to talk about. We're going to start off with Rogue Trader. Oh, no, the board games. The board games right there in front of us.
Yeah, let's go over all the new board games that we got because it's starting to be that season where we're getting a lot of the new holiday releases in. And so all the companies are going to be focusing on different things. A lot of times it'll be more accessible games for like a big audience, party games and things like that.
Yep.
Werewolf or Ultimate Werewolf Legacy is one of those ones. Social deduction games are huge, especially around family gatherings.
Yep. Or if you've ever been to Dragon Con.
Yeah, Dragon Con, like they run Werewolf nonstop.
Yeah.
So these games are really great to see to come in, especially if you guys are planning to travel. Or if you have events coming up like Halloween parties, Christmas parties, Thanksgiving stuff. Social deduction games are great for anyone who doesn't like, for gamers and non-gamers alike, because it takes usually like 5 minutes to explain all of the rules and people can get into it from there.
And it's a legacy game, which means I think this really supports more of the same group of people playing it.
Absolutely.
Because, you all get to develop all these new rules.
And once again, going back to like holiday trips and things like that with like family and such, like if you're going to be spending the weekend at the family house, like you can play a game like one night a week, people really get into it. And if they don't, that's fine. Like, you just like play the first one, people are kind of hot or cold, pack it up, and then do the legacy stuff with someone else.
Yeah.
And speaking of social deduction games,
the secret board game behind the other board games.
You gotta tilt it a little bit down. Yeah, there we go.
Secret Hitler.
Yeah, so this is one of those super popular games. It was popular game of 2016?
Yeah, most anticipated game of 2016.
Yeah.
They had a massive Kickstarter support for it.
Yeah,
and now it's finally available to us.
Yeah. So as a retail store, we are finally getting copies in, and I think we're very limited on what we have left. But it is a game that has been requested nonstop for the last, I think it's been like
2 years.
Pretty much. Like we've gotten calls in and asked for it. So now we're finally able to carry it. We have a limited stock in. So if you haven't already pre-ordered, please let us know if you'd like a copy.
The premise of the game is pretty simple. You have liberals and fascists trying to, keep Germany from collapsing, but the fascists are trying to get Hitler into power, and the liberals are trying to figure out who's the secret Hitler and oust them before that happens.
Yeah. So once again, social deduction game, different from the werewolf style. So if you guys have played, werewolf till your eyes bleed, try something new, try something different.
Yep.
Really great. The box is fantastic, the one that we showed off. So it's a really cool game. And now we have a couple other games. These are going to be closer to like Euro style games where, not so focused on the miniatures, Lowlands, and also Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
So these games are both incredibly popular. We got them in pretty recently. Taj Mahal is the one that I hear a lot about. And we have it in stock, and Lowlands as well.
Yeah, I haven't heard about Lowlands yet, but I've been out of the board game scene for quite some time. But it does look like a resource management, like keeping your farms going.
Exactly. And so a lot of these board games that we're getting in are recommended by our own staff. Like these two, Lowlands and Taj Mahal, are recommended by Joe, who is one of our board game aficionados here at the store. And you'll start seeing more recommendations or games recommended by our staff with little descriptions on it coming soon.
So wine experts have that like sommelier or that weird title that they get. They need to have one for board game experts.
I like board game aficionado for now, but we can get something fancier. We need someone with a either Italian or Latin background to come up with a nice fancy word.
Exactly.
But yeah, if you guys ever have questions about board games or what we have in stock, please message our Facebook page. We are much more responsive on our Facebook page, and we can get the experts to you through there, as opposed to just sending one of us like a Facebook message. Contact the page first, and we can direct the right people to you. So yeah, that's it for the board games, or at least the new releases for board games. This week itself, we have 2 massive releases. The first one being that Star Wars X-Wing 2.0 dropped yesterday. Yep. 2.0 has been greatly anticipated. I mean, I know half of our community, at least half of our community, have been playing with the 2.0 rules before they officially released for the last couple of weeks. So it's really nice to see all these new ships and the new packaging come in. And for those of you who haven't played X-Wing before, this is the time to get in on it.
Yeah.
X-Wing itself is a pre-painted miniatures game, and it's also
nicely painted.
Yeah, it's nicely painted. With the 2.0 release, they upped this quality of the model and the paint jobs that came with it. Yeah.
Oh.
So now most of the models, like the ships, have movable parts on it. Like the X-Wing foils actually like close and open, which is really cool. So they're really kind of bringing a new quality to the game. And I really like recommending X-Wing to people who, one, don't want a lot of models, two, don't have time to paint, and want a balanced skirmish sized game. It is a really strong game. It's lasted for years. I think it's been almost a decade now that it's been out. It's like 7 years. I think it's
probably 7 years. I remember Gigabytes 2 is when we started getting all that in.
Yeah. So it's been a really strong game. I mean, it has the Star Wars license, so it's obviously going to be there, but it wouldn't last unless it was a great game.
Yeah.
And one of the nice things about the 2.0 release is that they're more committed to doing balance changes on the fly, because they now have a digital app that they can adjust cards and points and things like that.
That is what I keep finding crazy about games that are either updating or coming out now, is that you're just like, hey, we have this powerful tool that we can update on the fly. It's no longer going to be a game killer when something gets unbalanced and they have no means of mass distributing changes to the people that have the product. Now it's just, hey, always run through this app, and this app will be updated every week.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, you'll have everyone who's informed and kept up to the pace in this game on a large scale.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll do updates that often, like to balance?
So, I mean, it depends, right? Like, so they're committed to keeping the game balanced itself. And the big issue is whether or not the issue is how balanced is the game, and then two, what the community is demanding for. Yeah. So, like, I've seen a lot, like Privateer Press and War Machine Hordes is probably my game that I play the most. I'm the most active in the community, and they have a very similar system where they will update things on the fly as necessary. And a lot of the balance changes that they do, like, rapidly, are mostly community feedback, where, it's the community itself who finds this one thing overpowered, or they don't have a way around it, regardless of like what the actual like numbers are showing. If the perspective is, hey, this is making the game unfun, the company themselves will be like, okay, cool, well, let's take a look at that. And then on slower updates or more long format updates, that's where they adjust like kind of stuff that's more under the hood, where it's like, okay, these things need slight increases or decreases in power or points or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we'll probably see as well with X-Wing, is because the communities make these games, right? So if everyone comes out and says, X-Wings are overpowered, I can't play anything but X-Wing lists, regardless of what the actual power scale is, Fantasy Flight's probably going to say, let's take a look at X-Wings, one, to address the community concerns, and then two, to, if there's enough people complaining about it, maybe there's something to it, right? So, and I really appreciate that the game companies are going to that themselves. And I think it's important to also say, like, I don't think this is mob mentality, like, changing games.
Exactly. That's what I was about to address, was the fact that a lot of times, I mean, this is probably something that's taken them a while as well, why we've had, access to all these easy to update things, but it hasn't really occurred until now, is that companies really have to learn what is that whole mob mentality and what isn't. What is a like a decent focus group of players that you can base all these changes off of, and what's just people going rabble, why am I not winning?
Yeah, so, and that's one of the nice things. And I think Fantasy Flight, I mean, obviously Fantasy Flight's a large enough company to have a great staff and a good development team and all that. So I personally think that X-Wing is going to stay as one of the more competitive level games that you can play. I'm actually really interested in playing in it, especially now with the digital app, with the upgrades and things like that. Like, I now have a shot of just buying a small list and not having to compete with 7 years of history to build up a list and get it going.
To give you an example of that, Matt Blaisdell, who's an amazing resource on any game he plays, be it Legion, be it War Machine Hordes, be it X-Wing, if he plays the game, he's always fairly knowledgeable. He's where I go to if I don't understand the game. But he was describing the difference between old, the new version and the old version, and he was showing the upgrades on X-Wings. And the thing was, he had, I think, for 4 X-Wings, like 20 cards for upgrades, with a net cost for the upgrades being -4.
What?
So there's so it basically, because they need, their way of fixing the ship was to make it cheaper, but they couldn't like say, hey, on the card you have, that price is wrong. So you got an upgrade that just said like a retrofitted something. And so that, dropped the price, and then it allowed this. And so after all the upgrades were said and done, you were at -4 for each ship. It was, or something like that.
And so to me, as someone who is outside of the X-Wing, that seems very hard to grasp, like get your head around. It's like, why do I have to slap things on there to drop the point costs, like so on and so forth? And why do I have so many cards to keep track? But now in the new system, like the upgrades are much different, right? Like, did he show you like an example of like what an X-Wing is in this one?
So I watched, John, who did you play? Was it Matt?
Yeah.
On stream? Yeah, you played Matt. And I saw, obviously there wasn't that bulk of cards sitting on the ships anymore. But no, it was just a really simple move. They actually made ships more maneuverable, which definitely makes it feel like a dogfight, because you were doing the barrel rolls, right, John?
Oh yeah.
Which is something they add.
I forget what they're called, U-turns basically. X turns or something like that.
But you're able to basically position yourself better on the map. Adds another cat and mouse aspect to the dogfights, which is I think an amazing addition to do. And obviously there's still Lady Luck involved, so I watched Matt end up losing to you, John. Because he just couldn't finish off your ship. Couldn't get it past all your dodges.
Right.
Obviously, he played strategically better or tactically better, because he actually knows how to play the game. So I was thoroughly surprised that my little maneuver toward the end actually worked, and I was able to get in and shoot him. I was very surprised by that one. But that's the cool thing about the game too, is that it was so intuitive for me to learn. And I learned games fairly quickly anyway, but it was literally like, it just made sense. Like, if you've watched the movies, that's how you can play in the game, which is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And now with them adding in more factions to the game, I think that's also another like strong point to it. Like, I can run an old droid army if I want, which like I'm kind of into. But because Gungans can't go to space. So like I might stick with Scum and Villainy because Bosk is the man.
But there's another situation. Like you said in your game, he played strategically better, but there was a German general that said war is chaos, and America practices chaos every day.
That's a good one. James said it released in 2012, so it's 6 years old. And then he says K-turn instead of a U-turn.
K-turn. So, by the way, like 6 years, I think is a good life cycle for an edition. Anywhere between like 3 to like 7 is, I think, long enough to where people will get to play it, get to kind of master the rules. And depending on the edition, the amount of releases you have, eventually you're going to have to do a more or less a reset to let new people into the game, and also condense the amount of rules that are coming to it. And that's where people roll their eyes at edition changes, but it's just a natural part of miniature games itself.
They don't realize that you have to trim that bulk sometimes.
And also in the miniature game setting, like you can't have Warhammer 40K and then Warhammer 40K 2, the second coming. Like it needs to be edition changes to let people use their investment from before in the new.
It's funny you say that, because then there's the 40K and then the 30K.
Well, I mean, but it's an important part. Like, you need to address that. But anyways, so I think edition changes are a good thing. I think this edition change in general, same with 8th edition. I think we're really, to me, I mean, obviously you can't really call an age in the if you're living in it, but like this is really a golden age of miniature gaming with how consistent and quality releases have been across the board. I can point to any miniature game that we carry here in the store and tell you how great it is and how well it's been supported. There's just constantly flow of new releases, balancing and all that. And X-Wing and Fantasy Flight really kind of epitomize that, and they are following suit with, you know, all these other systems that have done new additions and really brought in modern technology to it, whether it's the production of the models itself or the balance of rules and the constant updates and involvement of community in it. So yeah, I think that's absolutely great. And maybe you'll catch me on stream with my houndstooth, get him blown up. But you know, Bossk is my boy, so you know we'll go from there.
That's a cool ship too.
Yeah, and from here, if you guys have anything else to say about X-Wing 2.0 as we continue talking, please chime in about your thoughts and opinions on it. We'd love to talk more about it, especially to both of us as novices to the game. It's crazy to say that we've carried this game for 6 years, and I probably have played 3 games of X-Wing.
That's more than me.
Yeah, and Mark's the same, or you know, less than me, but I still love the game. It's just there's so little time for how many games we have.
Yeah, I've definitely watched a lot of games.
Yeah,
because I find it interesting on X-Wing night to see people just going at it, shooting each other down. It's like really just a slow motion dogfight to me. But I've just been, especially with before the new edition, I was like, oh well, it's been out for 4 years, it's been out for 5 years. Where do I even start? Was my big worry about it. And then it's like, what do I have to buy to make the ships I buy good?
Yeah.
But you know, with the new edition, you just start with everyone else.
Yeah. So if you guys are interested in X-Wing at all, just let us know. Also, we will try to do some more X-Wing streams. We talked about Matt Blaisdell before, but he's going to be kind of taking over the champion role for X-Wing for us, or at least hopefully. Matt, if you're watching, we're kind of enlisting you in this. But we'd like to have more live streams. I think X-Wing itself lends itself to being broadcast very well because it's a small board with not a lot of pieces on it to block view of stuff.
High contrast.
So you'll hopefully see more stuff from that 2.0 in the future. But we're going to move on to Rogue Trader now.
Rogue Trader.
Yes. Mark, what's a Rogue Trader?
So a Rogue Trader.
Oh, by the way, this is 40K.
Yeah. So a Rogue Trader is someone who's had like millennial old contracts dating back to the time of the Emperor to just seek out and find, materials, trade with technology to benefit the Empire. And so these are basically contracts that they wave in front of everybody when they're like, hey, that's heresy. They're like, nope.
No, I have a question. So are the contracts bound to families?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like a lineage thing.
Exactly. So like mom and pop did it. I get to do it. And so they'll be like, that's alien technology. We need to kill you. And they're like, no. I always imagine it as the Lethal Weapon 2 is like diplomatic immunity.
Yeah.
So one of the big things is called a standard template construct, which if you ever hear of a STC, it's a big thing for the AdMech. And that's one of the big things that they search for. It basically allows them to like terraform planets.
Yeah, it's like just dark age of technology stuff that's just, they don't know how to make it anymore, but if they find this blueprint, they can just bring it to one of the manufactorum places and start churning them out.
And it would make you like infinitely wealthy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so what I like, and once again, like I don't know as much about Rogue Trader lore as Mark does, but what I do like about them is that they are not the like monastic style like Space Marines where they're like faith in the Emperor, nothing less, or like the Imperial Guard where you're kind of like foot slogging, whatever. It represents another side of the Imperium, which I think is closer to our mentality, like our modern mentality, where it's like, hey, we're kind of profiteers, we are explorers, we want to benefit ourselves. Like, I mean, obviously we're still in the Dark Age.
So
but
a good way to treat it, if you think of, for example, explorers in the time where people were going down to Africa, where they would go, they'd have their like, oh, we're going to look for, ivory, or we're going to look for whatever precious materials we can. But obviously they're going to take, a contingent of military people to protect them. And so this is essentially the same thing. They're going from planet to planet. They have like the medic, the researchers, the guys with the weapons to keep everyone safe. It's exactly what you think of from like the 1700s trying to get into Africa.
And they look
They kind of look like that too, with the hats and they got.
They've done a really good job of designing it, and once again, like Rogue Trader we haven't seen Rogue Trader models in probably a couple of decades.
Oh yeah.
So they've done a really fantastic job of taking that classic Games Workshop design and updating it to like a modern aesthetic. So the Rogue Traders look fantastic themselves, and they are paired in this box set with new Nurgle models.
And they're not infected.
Right. And so this Gellerpox infected is a new breed of Nurgle, and it's a new way to incorporate models into your Death Guard, because these are mortals of chaos that have been, they're human beings that have been infected and mutated.
Yeah.
And it's really important to understand why and how this happened, which results in the Geller field, which once again Mark or John can explain.
So the Geller field is basically a psychic barrier put around the ship as it travels through the warp.
Yep.
And this basically keeps demons from just boarding you and trying to muck up your biz.
It's effectively a real space bubble inside the warp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I was describing before the stream started is that there's actually a story of orcs that when they do it, they also try to create a Geller field. And there was one orc who enjoyed fighting so much that he basically just said, just leave it down.
Yeah.
And so, constantly the ship's being invaded by demons. They're constantly fighting. When a Bloodthirster showed up, instead of doing the Imperial thing of running away from that area, they just heard all the screaming. So like, that's where he is. Let's go get him.
That's great.
Yeah. And so, eventually he realized that the more weird boys, the psychics for the orcs he had on a ship, the more demons came. So because that ship became, instead of a torch, it became a beacon in the warp. So, more demons showed up, and they kept fighting and kept fighting. And eventually the demons learned to not head towards the light. Yeah. They started avoiding the ship. And so when that started happening, he's like, well, where does this happen even more than in the warp? And they headed towards the Eye of Terror.
Oh my God.
And and from there, like, Cadia sees this armada of orc ships show up and like, time to get ready for this orc invasion. And they just flew by Cadia straight into the Eye of Terror, like, ooh. All right, you know what? We're gonna leave this alone. Hopefully deal with it. He lands on like a planet of corn, fights and fights and fights. But as you know, in the Eye of Terror, the demons will never stop. So eventually he gets cut down after just fighting for so long. And Korn's like, I like what you did. So he resurrects him, and for all eternity, he's gonna be fighting on one of Korn's planets. And all the demons that are stuck there dying over and over to this orc are just gonna be like, boss, can I please go like to the real world or something? Like, nope,
gotta fight.
Yep.
So back to the Geller field itself, it is a bubble to protect the people inside the ship from chaos itself. Mm-hmm. But in the new Rogue Trader box set, it looks like Nurgle has found some way to infect it. Mm-hmm. And it has arisen these almost Poxwalker-esque mutations amongst the Rogue Trader crew. So in this box set, you not only do you have your Rogue Trader humans, Imperium, but you have these weird Nurgle mutants that have arisen. In the box set itself is a contained kill team set, so like you can play just as the Imperium Rogue Traders versus the Nurgle Gellerpox infected, or you can separate them and start playing them in regular kill team, or you can even bring them into 40k. But these Nurgle mutants look fantastic. There's a bunch of small, spindly guys that look more like your stereotypical Poxwalker or zombie-esque things. Mm-hmm. And then there's like 3 or 4 huge, monstrous mutants.
Those that have withered and those that have bulked up.
Yeah, exactly. Good old Nurgle. And then on top of that, there's also like flies and maggots and beetles and all that sort of stuff that comes with it.
So have they like spoiled what any of these guys do?
They have through the Warhammer community articles, and they, obviously there's spoilers, so they're not full rules.
Yeah.
And they kind of play how you think they would, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice because I think they give you more than what you need for an actual kill team.
Yeah.
In that box set, so you can run either like, it depends on upgrades and all that. So like they talked about how you could just run a kill team of just the big monstrous Nurgle guys if you wanted, which is what I'm kind of into.
Yep.
Because I think that would be fun. Or once again with like the Rogue Traders, I think you can stick to less characters and more of the unit guys if you wanted.
Yeah.
It just depends on the upgrades.
Well, also let's talk about the maps, because the Nurgle dudes are all melee. They don't have any ranged weapons.
Correct. Yeah, so with this Rogue Trader, they introduce a new board to Kill Team. So this is another Kill Team standard board. but it's filled with like bulkheads and doors and things like that. And so there's a lot of ways to block line of sight to make sure your Nurgle guys get there. Yep. And also on top of that, your Nurgle guys are going to be a little bit more resilient to shooting than you would think would be necessary.
I was actually curious, like, what's the difference between them and a...
They are going to have different rules. So I don't know what the rules are. We won't know until we get our box sets in, which hopefully will be in the next couple of hours, which will personally, I'm excited about.
They'll be faster.
They also have special rules for the board on the ship. So
there's
special rules for close combat and whatnot.
Exactly, because they do basically different planets and zones and things like that in Kill Team, where like the board itself can have different rules. So you can play on like a hive world.
Yeah, I feel like they learned from Shadespire there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So it's this box set's really exciting. It's a great deal. 2, it introduces 2 new armies to 40K. So Rogue Traders can be completely incorporated in any Imperium list at this point. So if Mark was running Dark Angels or AdMech or Imperial Guard, Rogue Traders could be a detachment in themselves, and hopefully help you out a whole lot.
Yeah, they have
and
just like mini X, which is effectively like an allies for Age of Sigmar.
Exactly. Yeah, and I believe the Gellerpox is an ally strictly for Death Guard. So I might be mistaken, but I think that's what they talked about before. Mm-hmm. And also, this gives a lot of new modeling and painting opportunities.
Yeah,
like they have a Doberman in the Rogue Trader side.
I'm always about the puppers.
And then once again, with these Gellerpox infected, they've added a lot of new details. They've added more to the Nurgle aesthetic. New mutations, new ways, different ways to paint. So I'm
insects.
I'm really excited. That's my kind of Nurgle. Like I always wanted to do like an old beetle army for Nurgle, which would be a lot of fun. But that's like another army that I definitely don't need. But, but it's something that I'm interested in, just because hey, it's Nurgly nerd stuff. I really like this Rogue Trader, and once again, I think the amount of support that we're seeing for Kill Team and Shadespire in general, it goes back to X-Wing and things like that, where I think it's getting popular amongst the gaming community to keep smaller format games.
Yeah.
One, less models to paint, and then easy setup, easy cleanup, quick game. So like once again, you get off of work, 5:30, 6 o'clock. It takes you 30 minutes to get to the game store. You're here at 6:37. Like, do you want to play a 3-hour game and then finally get home at 10:30? But now you can show up here at 7 o'clock, play like 2 to 3 games in an hour and a half, and be home at a more reasonable hour.
Well, I mean, our Kill Team League has 4 players in it, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We had 20 players.
What was going on yesterday? Night. It was massive.
Last night.
So Kill Team, like it's our 40K skirmish day. So we've run Necromunda, Kill Team, all that sort of good stuff, and whatever else Games Workshop's going to release in the skirmish format will probably find a home on that Thursday night. But I think Games Workshop's pretty committed to sticking with Necromunda and then Kill Team itself, because in terms of 40K skirmish, those guys kind of comprise the gamut of the universe currently. You got your Kill Team for all the armies that you normally play in 40K. So if you're like, I play Tau, there's no home for me in Necromunda, you're not going to play Necromunda. But
for me, it's Death Guard. I would never play Death Guard in 40K.
Yeah. So once again, also the nice thing about Kill Team and Necromunda is that you're buying for an army. Like Philip's sitting right here off camera, and he hasn't played 40K. But if he wanted to get into 40K, his investment for Kill Team would probably run him, $30 to $50 for a unit box, plus a set of cards. So $70 altogether for a full army that he gets to play and then never has to add to or change at all.
Yep.
Yeah. So once again, he's down for the Rogue Traders. So if someone wants to split a box with him and get some Gellerpox, we got a guy here right now, ready to split. But it's great because it lets people get into a new game without a huge investment. Mm-hmm. I was just talking to a friend from out of town on the phone, and that's something that he really enjoys, is that he's got his big war game, right? Like the one that he's poured hundreds and hundreds of dollars in. But he can play Kill Team and try different things out for a relatively low investment. Each month he could theoretically buy a different army for less than $100, and that's great. And at
the same time, you're with games that have smaller numbers, you can like you said, try new things out.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be punished in a 3-hour game for being like, I should have never brought that.
Yeah. No, and Gregoire is absolutely right. You know, Dust 1947 was kind of one of these games at the forefront of all of this.
Yeah.
Not only is Dust 1947 quick, small numbers, also the models are assembled and pre-primed, which is a step above Games Workshop. Yeah. So that means all you have to do is slap paint on it, or, you know, if you want your stuff painted for you, you can buy Dust Premium, which, you know, the quality on that's insane.
Yeah.
If you guys have never seen a Dust 1947 Premium model,
I'm showing it
you
right
will be
now.
blown away. Yeah, show one.
This is a Heinrich Tropical. I think it's the Indac Army Box Premium.
So for the price, you're getting way above tabletop quality. Like this is it's below studio, but like 3 steps above tabletop.
Right.
You know, so things are colored correctly. They have decals, you know, all that sort of stuff. So
good skin tones.
Yeah. Since Gregoire is here, we gotta plug Dust.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where like I bought the Mythos starter, which was the pre-primed one. I spent a night airbrushing, doing the details and all that sort of stuff, and I get it done. And you know, I fancy myself a pretty decent painter.
Anyways,
yeah, whatever. Like I'm okay at painting, but I remember setting it down, and it was next to Jim Godin's premium one, and I'm just like, it's like, wow, I could have just bought the premium one and saved myself like 6 hours. But it's really cool to see that in a game. And it's great to see that this trend is picking up because there are so many great games out there. And that's one of the great things is like, you know, Philip, off-camera Philip could get into Kill Team today and his investment's done with Kill Team. And then next month he can try out Dust for relatively the same price. Yeah. Like you can take that 40K fund and just go, okay, well, I'll buy a Dust Army this week. And, you know, once again, you're ready to go. The Dust starter boxes outside of the box, easy peasy. It's a strong size, or it's a good enough size army to get a great feel for the game. And then plus a couple additional units and you'll be set.
Yeah, I think that's a great trend toward, for me, you know, being able to try different things. Because you never know what you like. You don't want to have to invest in something if you don't want to. So it makes a great opportunity for people now to say, oh, now I will invest in, I don't know, a full Space Marine army.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where you get to sample what you do like. And I really appreciate that, being like, all right, well, like, I kind of always liked Tau, but I never want to build up a full army of Tau because that seems like a lot of work. But hey, I can build a kill team. Like, I can just grab some stealth suits and have a fully functioning list ready to go.
So you can be like, I'm going to try out Fire Warrior kill team. I'm going to try out stealth suits to kill team. And when you have, like, you know, enough basic troops, you're like, all right, I'm going to get a commander.
Yeah.
And I'm going to add to that and see what, you know, low point 40K game is like.
Yeah, and you'll get a taste for that. So.
And yet another thing is that it allows you to really focus your detailing on one model because you only have, I don't know, 4 to 10.
Yeah. It depends on the army. Like, you can go crazy with Poxwalkers and have like 20 guys running across the board. I don't even know what you do at that point.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anyone put that on the board. 20 Poxwalkers, but I kind of want to.
Good luck having enough ammo.
Yeah. No, this isn't Necromunda. You don't have to pay for ammo. But yeah, so it's just one of those things where it's really great to see that, like, in the shift in the community itself. We see that time and time again, like through miniature games, like A Song of Ice and Fire. We just got a replenishment on the Kickstarter bundles, which we didn't think was going to be possible, but it kind of came through at the last minute. So if you guys are interested in starting that game's once again another pre-assembled plastic game that's good to go outside of the box. Your investment is like $150 and you get 3 armies. So if you split it with 2 other people, that's $50 per army. Like it's pretty good. And that's a game in which you can easily expand or leave as is as well. So, but the models are pre-assembled, they're colored plastic, so you don't theoretically have to paint them if you don't want to. I personally think they take the paint very well. Like, they look really good. But the assembly is not there. Even, like, you don't have to worry about mold lines all that much. I've looked at a lot of the models. They are, like,
so this
really
is one
good.
Of the promos that was from Origins. I painted them up a little bit. And that one is the Lannister captain, I think. And this one is a shield dude for Starks. And again, this is all based on the novels, so the aesthetic is a little bit different from the movies, but I love it.
Yeah.
It looks so good.
Yeah, and that's what I like. So I also like the fact that the aesthetic is different than the actual shows themselves, because once again, you don't have a lot of, or at least I don't have a lot of preconceived notions with these characters in A Song of Ice and Fire, as I would necessarily seeing the face of the guy who plays Tyrion. Why can't I remember his name?
Peter Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage. Like if I saw Peter Dinklage's face, like I would assume like things about how the game would play, or like how he would play as a character.
Yeah.
Where
That's a good point.
when we're going back to the books, like I feel like the interpretation's a little bit more open. I don't know why that is in my head, but I kind of like it.
And it follows the books more closely than the movies for sure.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
Because they need to basically keep that bridge.
Yeah.
That they can't cross because contracts. And
yeah.
But I was this close to actually buying some of the models to basically use as free peoples, but I gotta once again keep my model count a little lower. I need to cut back on that as well.
Yeah. So by the way, these models are great for RPG minis. We actually had a couple people buy sets themselves just to populate NPC armies or townsfolk and things like that. But Mark brought up a very important topic, which is too many models.
Yeah.
So John, I think this one's a little close to your heart, considering the last time you were here, you walked away with how many armies? Like 3 or 4?
About 50, 60 models at least. So this is one handful, and I have about 4 or 5 more handfuls just like that.
Yeah.
It's no, I might have like almost 100 models now that I have to try to get through.
Yeah. So the topic itself is, what do you do when you have too many models? Where do you start? How do you tackle it? How do you take it? You know, like how do you approach it when you have several armies that are unpainted, and like get them done right in an effective way? And this is something that we all struggle with. Like I myself am awful at this. Working at a game store leads to me buying a lot of models that I